Welcome to Hey, it's Carly Rae's Book Club. This is Book Hour where authors talk their latest novels, reveal their writing process, and chat all things books. I'm your host, Carly Rae, here with bestselling author Brenda Novak, who's celebrating her 75th book, The Seaside Library. Welcome, Brenda. I'm so excited to have you. Tell us where you're joining us from.
I'm coming to you from Sacramento, well, a little above Sacramento in the foothills. I love this valley, but man, are we getting saturated with rain this year.
Yeah. How's is it hot out? Is it cold out?
No, it's still cold. It's the winter that
Oh,
won't end. We have more snowpack in the Sierras than I think it's the second highest year on record. We have 180% of normal, so almost double.
wow.
And we
Yeah.
keep getting these weird atmospheric rivers, and I've never even heard that term before living in California. And suddenly we get one like every week that comes through and just soaks us and causes flooding and mudslides. It's been
No.
here.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your 75th novel, The Seaside Library. Tell readers about what they can expect from this romance slash mystery slash coming of age novel.
Yeah. Well, I put all of that under the umbrella of women's fiction, makes it a little easier. This novel was inspired by I can't remember where I read the premise of three people just hiding a secret. Like, I love that's kind of delicious, like, how do you carry that through your life and how do you deal with that? And especially if you share a secret and it could be damaging to one of you, how much do you trust? And are you right to keep this person's secret? And so I just love that whole concept. So I really wanted to write a story where, three high school best friends, one's man or young man. And this girl goes missing and they don't know really what happened to her, but they know that he had something to do with her that night. And so the suspicion falls on him, but his two best friends are like, there's no way Cam would ever do anything to harm anybody. And so, they're young and they really want to protect their friends. So they come up with this, we'll stick by you. And they give him, they say that he was with them at the time. And so then 20 years, I think it's 20 years later or sometime later. I've written so many books since this one, but I think it is at least 10 years later. They, have something turn out up on the body turns up and they're wondering if they did the right thing. So their lives have moved on a little bit. They're still friends, but it makes you call into question everything that you thought you believed about that person and about yourself. And if you're doing the right thing and if you're being fair to the girl's family. And so I just really loved exploring all of that and the mystery of what could have really happened to the girl and who was really responsible and what it would do to your current relationships. And Cam's married at the beginning of this story. And so you can imagine how that would test a marriage, wondering if this old, horrible thing that's cropped up in your husband's life is something that could be real or, and you married him anyway, and now you've got a daughter with him. So there's just a lot of interesting aspects, I think, to the relationships in this novel.
Yeah. Well, the Seaside Library centers around, as you said, three characters, Ivory, Ariana, and Cam. Was it difficult to craft essentially three main characters for this one?
I don't think so. I love characterization. That's kind of my thing. And so coming up with three people that are unique and distinct and would react differently to the same thing, I think is a challenge, but it's also something that's really rewarding when you're writing. And so I love seeing that develop.
Yeah. What inspired you to tell the story of the Seaside Library and make it your 75th book?
I wanted a big beach read. I wanted it not to be too suspenseful. Like, I think when you hear the mystery, you think, oh, it's a suspense. It's really not. It's more about the relationships and something that's happened in the past and how it impacts the present. And so I just really love that secret that's submerged and when it comes up, how it affects everybody's life.
When you thought about the Seaside Library, did you always want to have, I guess, a mystery element or that secret element in it when you were crafting the plot?
Yeah, I definitely like that as sort of a forward momentum to the story. It leaves a question in the reader's mind and makes them wonder what really happened. Did Cam do it? Was Ariana right for lying to him? Creates all these questions in the reader's mind that I think is compelling enough to keep them flipping the pages to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to know, who is your favorite character to write, Cam, Ivy, or Ariana?
That's a hard one because I love them each for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I hope the readers will too. But I think my male characters are almost always my favorite, just because in this story, I often make them sort of tough on the outside, but tender on the inside, which is my favorite kind of man. And so they always appeal to me. And with this one, Cam got such such terrible things he had to go through undeservedly. And I feel as though he started out with not a fair shake in life. Let's say that. So when he was young, he went through a lot that you could understand why he may or may not have done this. So it makes his background believable, but it also, I think, makes him a sympathetic character, makes you rooting for him, hoping he didn't do it, hoping he can get out of it, hoping he can retain his friends, even though he may lose other things along the line.
Now, did you stay on Mariner's Island where this like plot is set while writing the Seaside Library?
I didn't, because Mariners is fictional, but it is based on Nantucket. There were so many people writing books about Nantucket that I didn't want to go there, even though I had visited and done a lot of research and I loved it. And I too was inspired to write a book. I thought, I don't want to do what so many other authors are already doing. You know, Ellen Hildebrandt, Nancy Thayer, there's a lot of them. And so, and they're doing a beautiful job of it. So I really didn't want to encroach on that, but I wanted something in the same general area so I could get that same sort of summer seaside feel, but also have seasons out. You know, if you do some of the islands like farther south, then you don't get that distinct change of winter, fall. And I just love being able to have that change and have it be where the island can get cut off because of a storm with, you know, in the middle of winter, you got a nor'easter or it's too foggy or whatever. So I know that there's hurricanes and stuff down south, but I didn't want it to get quite that bad. So it just kind of checked all the boxes for me, where I thought I can make it very, very almost colonial England-like in the architecture of the downtown, which I find appealing too, which is like Nantucket. And I could do so many things with it if I made it fictional that can make it different when I wanted to, but also carry over elements that I really loved. So I stayed on Nantucket for a while, and that's where I got the real feel for the island and how I wanted Mariners to feel.
Well, writing's been a huge part of your life. Did you always want to be an author?
No, that's the weird thing. I hear that from so many authors that, oh, you know, I've been writing since I was a child, or I've always wanted to do this. And that definitely was not me. I thought I was left-brained, and that when I went to college, it was in business, and I thought it was better in math and science. And then I got married and I started having my family. I have 5 kids, and I had 3 when I caught my daycare provider drugging my children with cough syrup and Tylenol to get them to sleep all day while I worked as a loan officer. And I was so freaked out by that happening to my baby, especially because, you know, she was under 1 year old. And I just, it was a really difficult time. I quit my job, felt a lot of guilt because this had happened on my watch, essentially, you know, your child's last line of defense. And, but yet I needed to work. My husband had started a residential development business, and he had pre-sold all of his homes. So we thought we were being conservative, but then the market completely tanked, and the poor guy was working night and day trying to save his business because our homes, the appraisals were coming in less than what we had contracted on the home, which means you have to sell them for less, and that was below our cost. So his business was, you know, just going down the tubes, and I couldn't work because I had just caught my daycare provider doing this and didn't feel safe leaving my children. And so it was just a really dark time. And my sister sent me this great book by Jude Devereux. You probably have read it. It's iconic in the romance industry. It's Knight in Shining Armor. And I just thought, this is so good. I was devouring it. And while I was watching my kids at home, and I remember closing it thinking, I wonder if I could do this. Writing a book is something you can do it from home with your children. So that's really why I started, is because it's something I could do while I was babysitting. And I started the very next day. I headed down to Sac State. This is before the internet was really viable as a research tool. I mean, it was just getting started. So unfortunately, I didn't have that asset. I had to wait till my husband got home. He wouldn't get home till like 8 because he was, you know, working so hard to save his business. And then I would shove whatever kid was still awake at him, and I would rush down to Sac State because that's where they had the kind of research books I needed. They didn't have them at a regular library, not very many of them. And I needed, you know, I was researching a historical. So not only did I need to teach myself the craft of writing, I had to teach myself everything about that time period. So it was a lot to learn in a short period of time. And we struggled through, though. I'm glad I persevered, and I was lucky enough to publish that first book called Of Noble Birth with HarperCollins, which ironically enough is who I write for. So I've come full circle.
Yeah. Well, what's the most exciting part of writing for you? Is it like the brainstorming phase, the first draft phase, the editing phase?
Wow. You know, I just love all of it. I guess I love seeing something that I've envisioned come to reality, like from the whole start to the finish, like seeing the pages pile up, seeing it turn into a book, and seeing it on the bookstore shelf. Like, I just love that whole, like I did this, I wrote this book, I finished it. It's all done. It's packaged pretty and it's out there for people to enjoy. So I love my job. I mean, it's kind of funny because I'll wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and think, is it time to get up yet? Can I get up and start working? And that's when you love your job.
Yeah.
They say you never work a day in your life. And that's how I feel about writing.
Yeah. Now, did you always want to write in the romance genre? I know you had like historical, but did you always want to, I guess, have a romance element in your stories?
Well, it's kind of funny because I started out, my favorite book has always been Jane Eyre since I was very young. I found the classics when I was in 3rd grade and I just devoured them. And I thought all books in the library were created equal. So I thought, I do love to read. Prior to this, I thought I didn't like to read. I hated all the Dick, Jane, Spot stuff they taught us in kindergarten. I hated all of that stuff. I thought it was just so boring. And then when they directed me to this shelf of classics, and I read Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre and The Secret Garden, and I just was like in heaven thinking, I do love to read. This is wonderful. And then I got to end of that shelf and I couldn't find anything that satisfied me quite as well for some time. So I just really loved Jane Eyre. I wanted to write something similar. I didn't know enough. I had been such an eclectic reader. I didn't even really know the conventions of each particular genre or what even fell into which. I just read widely. And so when I started writing, my first book turned out to be 800 pages, and it was a straight historical and nothing I was ever going to get published. But I didn't know one other person who was writing or how to find these answers. And it wasn't until it was finished that I met with a friend in our church who worked for a nonfiction publisher here locally. And so I said, will you read this? Like, I don't know what to do with it now that it's finished. And she read it. She goes, you know what? That's actually pretty good. And she was surprised. I could tell she thought that she'd be telling me, no. So she goes, it's pretty good. I think you could get this published. Have you found Romance Writers of America? I said, no, I'd never even heard of them. She goes, well, they have a yearly convention every year. You should go to it. So I showed up 5 months pregnant with my 5th child in Texas for this RWA convention. I didn't know they had local chapters. And they had publisher spotlights, and they had, where they presented everything they were going to be publishing. And I remember sitting in Mira's, which is where I write now, and seeing them flash those covers. And it just made me so excited and made me want to write for them so badly. And that was kind of the thing that really helped me learn what genre was. And I realized, of course, my book is too long. Nobody's going to want to publish it. I need to define it as something that is more of a strict romance. So I went home, I cut it down and tightened it so much and rewrote it essentially to 400 pages, a little over 400. And then I submitted it into the Golden Heart, which is the biggest contest for unpublished romance writers. RWA sponsors it, or did at the time. I don't know if they still do. And it finaled. And then that's how I got an agent and sold it to HarperCollins. And that was kind of the ladder I used to climb into the business. So hats off to RWA.
Yeah, ma'am, for doing what you're supposed to do. That's a really good story. Yeah. Now, you also have a Brenda Novak book group on Facebook, and it has over 25,000 members now. Tell viewers more about it and if they can go and join.
Yeah, we'd love to have everybody come join. It is the warmest, kindest community you will find on Facebook. Very avid readers. Some of them read like 300 books a year. It's just incredible. Some of them only read the monthly read that's our challenge read. So there's a wide variety, but we have a Brenda Novak reading challenge each year. And so each month we feature a different author that I don't have a release. Each month I don't have a release. If I do, then we feature me. But in the months I don't have a release, we feature other fabulous authors. We've had Kristen Hanna, we've had Susan Elizabeth Phillips, we've had Catherine Coulter and Susan Wiggs, and Debbie Maycumber is always our December anchor author, and we do a fun ornament every year with her that's a collectible ornament, and so many fun things. Anyway, if you join, you can get the Brenda Novak book boxes whether you join or not. But the fun thing about joining is you get an autographed copy of our read for that month, and then that author comes and does an interview with me, similar to our interview here, where we talk all about her book, and readers can submit questions beforehand, and we do giveaways and they get to know her. And sometimes we throw an after party and do fun things, like we've done classes on how to make chocolates with Z Chocolato in San Francisco, and Forage San Diego did a how to do cool charcuterie boards, and we've done decorating sugar cookies and as a group, and just lots of fun things. During COVID, everybody was shut in and it was so hard. So my husband turned into Bingo Ted, and we played bingo and did prizes once a week. And anyway, so we do so many fun things in there. It's you can find it just by putting Brenda Novak's book group in Facebook and click join, and then we'll let you in. And It's a very, like I said, very positive community. There's no shaming or negativity or anything that you can deal with sometimes online, which I'm very proud of, that the culture is so wholesome and wonderful. So, and hats off to the ladies who make it that way.
Well, is there anything else you want to add? You want to tell us about any upcoming releases besides the Seaside Library?
Yeah, I have 3. Well, it's actually a trilogy set in Montana. And this is romance. These are our 3 mass market releases, and it's Tallulah's Back in Town, The Talk of Coyote Canyon, and The Messy Life of Jane Tanner. And I really love the way those books turned out. So they'll be released in rapid succession, starting in the end of August, then the end of November, and then the end of January. So, and then I have another big beach read coming out next April that'll be somewhat similar to this. It's also set on mariners, although it's not connected to these characters or this story. It's the same setting. I just finished that and turned it in, which I'm super excited about. And I'm about to head out on a 32-stop tour for the Seaside Library. So I'd like everybody to come out and see me. I renovated an Airstream, a vintage Airstream that I turned into a bookstore / tiny coffee shop. And so Bingo Ted has now turned into Barista Ted, and he's going to drive and we'll pull this trailer around the country. We're in California, and we're going clear over to Connecticut and back. So 8,000 miles total for the trip. And if you look at our trip, it kind of outlines the whole US. And so we're going to get to see a lot of the members of the book group and other readers. Everybody's welcome. And I have a big name author joining me at every stop. It's going to be so cool. Like I have Catherine Coulter coming to the Sausalito stop. I have Susan Elizabeth Phillips coming to the San Diego stop. Allison Brennan and Kristen Ashley are coming to my Scottsdale, Arizona stop. I mean, just every stop has a fun conversation partner that you'll get to come to. We have cute totes that commemorate their limited edition totes for the book stream. We call it the book stream. That's what we named the Airstream that we turned into the bookstore. And so you can get a tour package that has an autographed book and this darling limited edition tote and a few other goodies in there, a raffle ticket, because I do a lot of basket giveaways for the finale party, which everybody can attend because it's online on June 1st. So we've tried to cover all our bases and make sure everybody can participate. And if you can see me in person, that would be wonderful, because we will be having, like I said, lots of stops. You can see where those are on my website under the events tab.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the bio below as well. That sounds really awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Are you going to get to come out and see me?
I'm in Florida, so I'm definitely going to go check. Are you coming to Florida?
I am. I'm coming to Orlando. Are you close to Orlando?
Yeah, I'm about an hour and a half away, so I'm definitely going to look you up on that.
Definitely come. Yeah, Rachel Hawk will be joining me for that one. And Kristen Harmel, you may know this, she's going through cancer treatments, breast cancer. She's been public about it. And so she was going to join me and then couldn't because of her treatment, but now she's starting to get toward the end of it. She's thinking maybe she can come again. So maybe we'll get to see Kristen too.
Now, are you going to be at like a bookstore with this set up outside the book stream?
Yes.
Okay.
All the cells that we sell through my website, they're just to facilitate how much stuff we need to bring. And then we pass those cells on to the indie bookstores that we're partnering with. So this is an effort to support indies as well. As you know, the small businesses need our support. And so we do what we can with that. And so there's one Barnes & Noble on the tour in Nashville. But other than that, they're all indies all around for 32 stops.
Well, that's amazing. I'm definitely going to go check out the date so I can come. That sounds really cool.
I would love to see if we could get some fun pictures with the book stream, and it would be great.
Yeah. Well, you guys heard Brenda. Go check out her 75th novel, The Seaside Library. Thank you all so much for joining me on this episode of Book Hour with Brenda. Tune in next week for an all-new episode. In the meantime, you can stay up to date on all things Hey, It's Carly Rae on social media and on my website, HeyitsCarlyRae.com.
Thank you, Carly Rae.